right, we are recording. Let me share my screen here. And I'm going to pull it up. Window. Where are we at here? Good grief. I've got a lot of windows. There we go. All right. So you can see my screen now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to show you how to do the non-renewable totals. So, we have somebody joining us.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hey, good. So, Andrew, let me answer her question, and then I'll answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want, Jones, you can hang out and get the answer to his question too. It's up to you. But anyway, and Andrew, just so you know, we are recording.
All right.
So I'm going to pull this lab up. Where are you at? 101. I'm missing some stuff here. 108. There we go. All right. 108 Labs, Module 7. So it is a little tricky. But it's so weird. Sometimes, like, I want to give detailed instructions so things aren't tricky. But then sometimes it's just giving too many instructions makes it tricky. So hopefully this video will really help. It's actually quite simple when you're not trying to read how to do it, right? So let me click on this. Right, this is where the information is, right? Open that. Here comes the website. And Jones, you asked a question earlier what year we should use. And I really am fine with the exception that I told you about earlier. I am fine with the way it's already set up, which is where 2023 is. But if someone wants to change it, the better one would be 2024. So 22, 23, and 24, because 2024 is the most recent. I think I would need to read to be sure, but I'm pretty sure 2025. Well, yeah, 2025 obviously has to be a projection. 2024, I think, is current. But anyway, to answer your question, let's look at this. The renewable total, and for example, the renewable total for 2023 is 867.78. Can you see that?
Yeah.
867.78. 86. Of course, the exact number doesn't necessarily matter, but 867.78. All right. That was from 2023. Now, what we need is the non-renewable total for that year, right? So what we'll do, let me look at the renewable total I've already written down. So then we have the total, right? So here we have total net generation, which is 3,957.62. All right. So let's think about this. What we need then, if we want just the non-renewable, right? We take this total, which is renewable and non-renewable, and we just remove the renewable. Does that make sense?
That's what I started to do, and then I was like,
Sure. Well, I'm glad you double checked. Yeah. So in this case, I'll pull up the calculator just to show you. We have what 3,957. I'll just leave it at that, just to make things simpler. I won't do the decimal point. That was the total. But if we're going to take away the renewable, right? So if we have the total minus the renewable, then that leaves us with the non-renewable, right? So then from there we subtract the 785. And I'll just leave it at that for the, and then the answer would be around 3,172. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I hope that makes sense in the video too. Like if you don't focus on the details, hopefully that's just almost common sense. Like here we have the total of renewable plus non-renewable. Let's just take away the renewable, and we're left with a non-renewable.
Okay, yeah, I have a tendency to like skip over kind of silly things like that, and so I was like, let me check this before I.
Well, you're not alone. I think most of the mistakes I see in all my classes are not people who just they have a problem with science or a problem with biology. Usually the problems are things like, small things like that, like you missed some instructions or you made a small mistake. So that's good, I think. Anyway, did you have any more questions?
Nope, I think I'm good.
All right. So then I will go to Mr. Walker, and you had questions about doing percentages, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the basic equation is pretty simple. It's just what you ended with minus what you started with. That's the first step, right? So that's part of this table. Let me do an example. Obviously, I'm not going to do the actual example. I don't want to give anything away. Let's assume this was a health class and not a biology class. And it said, all right, how much weight did this person gain when they worked out 3 times a week with doing bench presses, whatever.
All
So
right.
they started at 200 pounds. And then 3 weeks later, they were at 215 pounds, right? So what is the percent change? The first thing you need to understand, there we go, is the difference, right? So what is the difference? We take what we ended with, which is 215.
Yeah.
We subtract the original, which is 200. So we have a difference of plus 15. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so this person gained 15 pounds of muscle, presumably. So then the question is, all right, well, what is that percentage-wise? Like what percentage did they gain? So then we take the difference and we just divide it by what they started with, right? So 15 divided by the original, which was 200, and that gives us a decimal. Now, to make that a percentage, you either move the decimal place over twice, or mathematically speaking, that's the same as multiplying by 100. So times 100, and then we get 7.5. So that was a 7.5% increase. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
All right. And one more thing I want to show you guys before you're off and while I'm recording.
Okay.
I should have made this more clear. When you open up a file, right, you go up here and you make yourself a copy, right?
Mhm.
But before you do that, look at this. If you look, the original file has all these things you guys are asking me. I have little side notes that show you these things, right? All these little side notes that are telling you, like, this is where this information comes from. This is how you got this calculation. This is how you got this calculation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what you can do now that we're at the end of the semester, when you do module 8, when you do this and you go to file and make yourself a copy, notice this. It'll give you an option. It didn't give me the option. Never mind. Sometimes it gives you the option to say, do you want to include the comments? In which case you would want to, but for some reason this one's not doing that. So never mind. Does anybody have any other questions?
Yes, sir.
And you guys are both okay with me sharing this video for people who need help, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool with me.
All right. And if you don't mind, because I love to have a paper trail, send me an email, said, hey, it's okay for you to share the video. That way I can have it on record, and that'll remind me to give you the extra credit.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys for meeting with me today.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good weekend.
You
You
too.
too.